we don't know that we're going to get tomorrow. So if this was your last day, well, what would you do?
Welcome back to Infinite Power, the podcast. And today we have a very special guest. I think she's my friend. Can I call you my friend? I think she's my
Family.
yeah, our family. But she's a psychotherapist based in Wexford. And we're going to talk about something that that is really important for everybody, but in this case we're going to talk about like how does it affect business owners, and we're talking about dealing with negative thinking and cultivating self-love. Okay, so how important is that in order to achieve things, to succeed, or to live a happy life? Okay, so we're going to start with my first question, that is, who is Ciara? And how do you help people?
Yeah. I suppose I would see myself as a person that is continuously transitioning. My own process is really important to me. Just because I'm a psychotherapist, I'm always learning in the background. Always interested in. I'm really gone big into energy, and frequency and the vibration that we give off, and that's so important for our bodies as well, like to just pay attention. And more often than not, what I find is people like really value their heads, but they don't really value their bodies, what their bodies, their gut is telling them, or like we've got three brains. One is in our head, one is in our bellies, and one is in our hearts. And I suppose that's what I really value. And I suppose I've worked quite hard and I still work quite hard to like align the three of those things. And it's a daily process. It's not just once a week or once a month do I see to this. It's like on a daily basis, how can I help myself? Like let it be even 10 minutes, so I'm continuously learning new stuff. I trained as a psychotherapist. I actually done legal studies in business before I done psychotherapy for 4 years.
You did
And
legal
then
study for 4 years.
yeah,
I did law for a year.
yeah. So like completely opposite. So it's kind of obviously, and I believe like I was quite young. I was 23 when I went towards psychotherapy. I was quite naive with what it was undertaking I was taking on, but it really, really my course was priceless to me. It really helped me become who I am today. And
How do you help? How do you help? Let's tell us.
I suppose I work with a lot of trauma, like a lot of severe trauma. I've recognized that I can hold and contain people very much in pain, emotional pain, and psychological pain as well. And who I work with is at the moment, I work partly in a Wexford Rape Crisis Centre. So that's really full of trauma and it's really difficult work. And I also work with bereaved parents they have lost their kids suddenly, or their babies are stillborn. True First Light is the charity. And I also do couples work. So I do a lot. And really bottom line is where I focus is the individual, that inner, like we all have an inner child and we all have
Trauma.
trauma. And it's how we learn to cope with that. Like, what do we do when things don't go right, you know?
So I suppose you receive a lot of people, or you meet a lot of people, or you help a lot of people with negative mindsets already, right?
Or trapped trauma, that adds to their mindset.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally understand. So from there, I want to move to the next question, is how, like, what do you think it's the most important? Like, where do you start when you find somebody that cannot get out of that loophole?
Um,
Where do you
I
start?
I suppose really what I notice is how they carry themselves. What is the language they're using towards themselves? Do they value self on any level? Because some people just don't value themselves enough, and they don't really know what that is. They don't know what it's like to experience self-love, or self-value or self-worth. So where do I start? I kind of just I stay with the person, I just notice them. My biggest strength I would say is my intuition with people. And I just follow them. I don't bring them into anything that's too much too soon. Because being kind to ourselves and learning to be like kind, self-compassionate is a big deal. And it's a quite difficult process for some people, because it brings up a lot of past child stuff, that they don't really notice it until they speak, and
Yeah.
they're not really aware of it until they speak. Um,
So you're just you understand them and support them where they are, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and then I notice, is it safe enough to bring in?
Something else.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
If they're
different
ready
stuff.
to, if they're ready to move. So in terms of like business owners, like you're a business owner, you work for yourself, right?
Mm.
Do you think, have you ever felt a connection between the negative self-talk and self-sabotage? Like, do you think
Mm.
that having a belief about yourself that is not positive, or a feeling of not being enough, not being, not having enough knowledge, not having, like, yourself, like negative, feeling small, or
Yeah.
the typical negative self-talk, do you think that there could be a connection between that and sabotaging the self?
Yeah, most definitely. Like our self-image, our self-talk, like how we speak to ourselves can really put a blocks in place, in relation to how successful we can be. And that's a piece that I constantly work on as well, because our belief systems are in there, and we'll always default back to the starting point, the unconscious, the subconscious of what we truly believed as a children, around our worth. Again, like everything really comes back to how much we value ourselves. So I can definitely see the connection between the self-talk, the negative self-talk versus the self-sabotage. Like it can stop us from reaching, and out of our comfort zones as well. So like to be successful, we can't just keep doing the same things in our comfort
No.
zones. We have, hence why I'm doing this. This is really uncomfortable for me. This is not for me, but I'm doing it. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know that I saw like, I love the self-sabotage topic, because I've experienced it. And I think, like, in my circle of very close people, which is really, really small, we talk about it a lot. Like, it's something that the people that I talk to about those things have really experienced too. And so I'm always studying about the topic, like, what does that happen? And I saw a really good explanation about a guy. I can't remember his name because I study so much that sometimes I forget where did I learn it from. But he was saying that what basically happens is that you have a belief about yourself, right? About what you can get, where you can go, what you can achieve, what do you deserve. And then if things start going outside of that belief, you unconsciously find the way to go back
Yeah.
to confirm your belief.
Yeah.
And I found that explanation so, so powerful. Oh my God. It was such an eye-opener, you know, it was so clear, you know, and it happens, and it happens all the time, you know, but I don't think that you can actually change it until you become aware of that constant pattern, you know.
Yeah.
So
And also our self-image. So how do we see ourselves? So if we want to be more successful, well, who is she? You know, how does she talk? How does she feel? How does she dress? What does she eat? What does she exercise? Who's her friends? Like, what's she reading? So it's like
that's
getting,
that's the path to becoming, right? You're talking about now.
no, it's the visualization of, okay, so if you want to be in business and you want to be more successful, and you're aware like of how you feel and your beliefs right now. But if you allow yourself to acknowledge, okay, well, I don't want to stay stagnant here. I want like maybe a podcast, or I want to sell a workshop
X
or
amount,
whatever.
X amount of extra cash, you know, for
Yeah.
example.
It's like, who does she need to become? Who do you need to become to facilitate these pieces? And it's to embody that, like, who is she? What does
Oh yeah,
that
but
feel like?
so you're talking about you're talking about the rehearsal part of becoming, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Before it's ever after happening,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, yeah.
And what does that feel like? Does
So
it feel,
transmitting that vibration, so that like you repeat it so much. That's Joe Dispenza. You repeat it so much that it eventually you're gonna start attracting those things, right?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
And it's not about being comfortable with it. It's not about being comfortable with it. It's about, is that your desire or not, you know? And like as you said, it's like we can get like we're stepping up the steps and then it's like, no, like I don't really want to go that further step. You know, there's something in us that just brings us back down.
that's because there's still a matching belief, right,
Yeah,
to that
yeah,
old self, right?
yeah.
That's how I see it.
Yeah.
That's how I see
And
it.
there's
Yeah.
ways to work with your beliefs. There's a ways of letting go of those beliefs.
Yeah, but I
I
think
really
I think that also comes with a lot of goodbyes, in my experience.
comes with what?
With a lot of goodbyes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Your company is so important. Like who you surround yourself with is so important, and what you're focusing on is so important. And it's quite important to just keep that goal in mind. Like, who is she? What is she about? What's around her? Yeah.
And it can sound a little bit you know, selfish. Well, it is. And like it took like in my own experience, it took me years to find a straight answer to being very careful to who surrounds me, you know. Like I was always bouncing back to, am I being too selfish? Am I being too all about myself? Am I be but then if I don't do it, if I don't look after myself, if I don't look after what I consume mentally, you know, or or energetically with company that you shouldn't really continue having in your life, because there are some people, like your family, you don't choose your family. You're well, you choose them in another. I believe that you choose them, okay? I do believe that you choose them, like your soul chooses them for you to learn something about them, right? That's my own belief. But your chosen family, which are friends and people that you know, meet and share with, you choose those people, you know. So
And
it's up sorry,
that
what were
to
you
me is a type of self-care though, self-compassion, like of choosing how long do I want to be around these people that are talking negative, or that I'm noticing they're not on the same page as me, or that they kind of dismiss the idea of if I open up and say whatever, you know. That is a type of self-care instead of
but selfish,
selfishness.
you don't see that. So but did you always see it as self-care? Because in my case, I didn't. Did you always see it as self-care? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I have, because I suppose my piece is I've always seen myself as an individual. So me, myself, and Irene, if you like, me, myself. Yeah. even in relation to my family. So everybody is secondary to me in the
Okay.
sense of paying attention to myself inwardly. Yeah.
Okay.
And so it's not that I don't pay attention to them.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Like I'm all ears and I'm open to if they need anything from me. But ultimately it's my choice with who I surround myself with and what I let in, and noticing how I feel after being in certain company, if that makes sense. So yeah, no, I'd
So
never.
you have what I call an old soul, you know? Yeah, yeah, you do. So do you see oh yeah, I asked you that about sex self-sabotage. Sex, not sex, self. We're not talking about sex here today. So what are, like, can you tell me um I think that, like, before I ask you the next question, I think it is important and valuable, a very valuable piece of advice and content that we can give people of how to become the next version of the better version of themselves, because I think both you and I have studied some of that, and we could share something. So what would you say would be like one or two things to become your best version of you?
Well, first of all, it's taking time to manage your mind, and the thoughts that come in and the language that you're using. Because, and that can be as simple as, I know that sounds like a big task, manage your mind, like master it, but that can be as simple as you're going for a walk, like listen to a podcast that uplifts you, that you learn something from. It could be, I love Abraham Hicks. Do you ever hear of Abraham Hicks?
Of course.
I love
I've read the
him.
book. I'm reading the book for the third time.
Yeah,
Asking
like
it is given.
I love that. So it's like cultivate the peace and ease within yourself. Yeah, within your body. Teach your body how you want to
And
feel.
just in case people don't know who Abraham Hicks is, they're like some consciousness, like high consciousness teachers, right?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of information on YouTube. That's where I see it actually, about how they, like, there's a lady that channels them and that talks for them, and their messages are amazing. And there's also a really good book called Ask and It Is Given that I've read twice, and I'm reading it for the third time. My English is not great today. For the third time today, like this time, and it's really good.
Mm.
So yes. So to
So
continue, because I don't want to say something that people cannot, follow or.
yeah, yeah, totally. That's what I noticed helped me when I noticed, I'd say it was what are we in now? October. I'd say early on this year that I noticed like a bit of a lull, like you're not feeling great health wise. And I needed to snap out of it. So that Abraham Hicks really helped me. It was simple as putting on that, putting your earphones in and listening. Also reading really kind books. Like I have a lovely book called Journey to the Heart.
Okay.
It's really lovely. By I think Melanie Beattie is her name. Joe Dispenza is another one. I really like listening to him. Um, Exercise is so important. Nature, love it. I just love anything peaceful. If there's people, I'm not going to be there. I'm going to be where the nature is.
In my experience, I've found like meditation to be transforming.
Yeah.
Like, and I say it over and over and over. Some people like say it's so difficult. How do you do it? There's so many ways. Okay, so find one of the ways that suits you and do it. Like there's walking meditation. There's like actually the act of being in the present moment. It's a meditation. It's just being present. So if you want to sing. If you want to play an instrument, if that brings you to the present. That's all it is, really. Being grateful, for me,
Mm,
that's been transforming
yes.
completely. you know? So I do gratitude every single day. And the days that I don't do the gratitude, like, because I write them down, if I don't write them, I just say thank you, like at least for three things that, you know, some people would find silly, but I find amazing that there's hot water every morning. Like,
Yeah.
like for me, that would be like, imagine like a Caribbean being in the middle of the winter having a cold shower. Like for me, the hot water is something that I'm like, oh my God, this is just amazing. I'm so grateful for this, you know, because it changes my life. And it sounds so small, but those are the small things that I find that make a huge difference in becoming and in attracting, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Big time. Yeah. Yeah. And what I'm noticing as well lately, I'm working quite much on my home, like the elements in my home, like clutter and like what's my front door, what's my back door like? Is it tidy? Like, is it clean? Is it welcoming? You
Well,
know?
your home is a reflection, like your outer space is a reflection of your inner mind. Do you know?
Mm,
I
mm,
don't know if you've heard that.
yeah.
So when I see that I have so many, you know, I'm very organized and systemical, but I'm very creative at the same time.
Yeah.
So in my creative space, like I have a pencil and a pen and a diary and another diary and another notebook and another diary. And like for my husband, that's like crazy. For me, that's my type, like that's my creative, like I need a desk that is like the size of like half the room. I cannot stand like a dirty kitchen or dirty sitting. Do you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
It's important.
for my husband, that's like I don't know how can you like that. That's why it's I thousands because I write a lot, you know, like and I call them silly stuff like I get ideas, I write them down, and so I have notebooks everywhere. But what I empty the the hot press every year, you know, and I want to say it clear because I find that when you let things go, you make space for other things to come in, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So going back to rehearsing to become that person, for me, gratitude, meditation. For you, you said listening to positive thinking stuff, and any other things you want to add?
And when you say meditation, I often find what people struggle with that is like, they're like, well, what meditation? You know, like if you kind of sent them a link to listen to a certain meditation, that's what I often try and do. Like I don't just let them off, you know. I obviously I've used it myself and I've found it helpful and then I give it to them. In relation to, depends on what your goals are and what your desires are as well. Like some people it's like their weight and some people it's money and some people it's relationships
I
and
think that in the end, we all want to be like to feel good about ourselves, to be
yeah.
happy, and to feel loved. I think that like everything summarizes there, you know, like
Mm,
all the human needs, like the deepest needs, I think are those, you know.
mm,
You want to lose weight because you want to see yourself like maybe looking better so you can like yourself more, or
mm,
maybe you want to find your other half, or right, I don't like saying other half because I don't think nobody needs a half, but somebody else, you know.
mm.
So
Yeah,
I think that deepest, like inside out, all of us, I think we have all like the same needs. What do you think?
yeah. Yeah, more often than not, obviously we need love and connection, you know, but that can be in multiple things. Like that can be a connection to your dog if you want, you know, that can be connection to the land. Doesn't ultimately always have to be the other person.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, in relation to becoming what you want, first of all, getting quite clear as to what that is, you
Yeah,
know. Um, but our minds and our bodies are very important and they are one. And more often people value one over the other. And it's to value both because they are equally important. And our health is everything.
yeah, Yeah, there's nothing we can do without it.
Yeah. Like what kind of life would we have without health? Let it be mental health or physical health, you know?
Yeah, we take it
So
for granted.
we definitely take it for granted.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we take it for granted so much, so much. Yeah, I love listening to, like, I remember some of, I think this is Louise Hay, that, like, I think she says something like, don't wait until until you're in the surgeon's bed to change your beliefs or your mind. Or I can't remember what it was, but it's a very impact like impactful message.
Mm.
And there is like another mentor that I had, and she used to say, don't wait until life makes you beg for
Yes. Yes.
for changing something,
Mm.
like start making little changes. Okay, stop being
Mm.
so comfortable, start changing what you know that you need to change. Okay, because sometimes we stay in places that we're no longer belong, or we don't move, or we don't take that step that the whole universe is putting us in front of.
Yeah.
And then something much bigger makes us, something like
Mm.
an illness or a broken relationship or something like really big comes to remind us, this is what you should have had been doing before.
Yeah, being conscious of before, and being like noticing yourself as an individual, like like you are responsible for you, you know.
But I find so much irresponsibility, so much. Do you find that,
Mhm.
like, in people?
I think it comes down to lack of awareness, though, you
You think
know.
so?
Yeah, I really feel like it's lack of awareness, lack of consciousness, on behalf of people. They're not giving themselves enough time to actually check in to see how they are. Like what you said there earlier, step out of your comfort zone. More often people like can be quite robotic in their everyday life. We don't know that we're going to get tomorrow. So if this was your last day, well, what would you do? And like that's what I'm saying about the 10 minutes. Even if you have 10 minutes to pick up a paintbrush, to read that book, to breathe that air in, like whatever feeds your soul, like what is it that feeds your soul? And I think that's really important. And it's not something that people ask themselves very much.
Because we take for granted that life finishes too. Like, that's
Yeah.
another thing. Like, but like, I don't like, I don't want to say that I live with a sense of urgency, that I'm like, oh, I'm gonna no, but there has to be a sense of urgency. You know,
Mm.
I think that keeps you motivated, that keeps you trying new things, that keeps you, not sitting in a chair and say, I'm not going to do it tomorrow, or postponing and postponing and postponing,
I think that's a mindset though.
the urgency.
Yeah, I think I don't know what you mean by urgency as such.
It's like if you need to do something, instead of saying, I'll do that in 6 months, do it tomorrow or do it today if you have the time. Such as,
mm,
I'm going to start a diet. Why do you have to wait for January? Do
yeah.
you? Do you really? You don't.
Mm,
You
no.
know? Why, I'm going to go to the gym. Oh no, it's going to be Monday. Why don't you go tomorrow? That is Friday. What's,
Mm,
if you really want to do it, why would you say, I'm going to quit smoking? Oh yeah, and that'll be my New Year resolution. Like,
mm,
you know that you need to. You know that it's terrible for you. You've been doing it for more than like half of your life. Why do you need to keep telling yourself lies?
mm.
So I don't know if that's lack of awareness.
It's a subconscious piece though. Like people just, it's easy. It's easier.
Yeah, but yeah. I don't think that's lack of awareness. I think that's comfort.
Mm, yeah, but people can let themselves, but let's just not generalize. Let's say for some
Exactly.
people it's lack of awareness, and other people, they know what they need to do, but they just postpone it always. You know, they're procrastinators. And they've learned to do that, you know. And they've done that possibly maybe as a survival skill for a long time, but the survival skill isn't
But that can be changed, and that's the good part.
that can be
That
changed.
can
Yeah.
be changed. I mean, that's the amazing thing, that you can
Yeah.
like, you can transform like your life, you know, if you train your
100.
brain for it.
Yeah.
You know, like the point here is not to say like to make to bring all those things to then leave it there. No, it's to say it's possible to change. You can become a new person. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
if you decide it, it's a decision. It's only, everything is
Yeah.
only a decision, and
Yeah.
it's so that's so amazing, you know. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying like, you know, I'm over, like I'm in my own path. I'm constantly, you know, breaking my ceiling and learning, and I found myself in, I'll do it on Monday, you know. So that's why I'm saying it's possible,
Yeah.
because like, you know, I've been there. So what, like, I want you to tell me 3 things that you recommend, like, to people that are different to the ones that we've mentioned so far, to change the negative patterns or the negative self-talk, if there's something else that we haven't mentioned.
I think self-awareness is a big thing, like noticing your thought process. So, like how, like noticing the negative thoughts. And
But how do you do that?
so it's about slowing down, first of all. So, like, we can be mindless, yeah? So we can go throughout our day doing what we do, and the thoughts are there.
Autopilot. Yeah.
Yeah. But the thoughts are there, you know, like we're always thinking. There's always thoughts. So it's about catching them, noticing, hang out there, pay attention.
Do you have
Pay,
any exercise to let people, to help people, in this case business owners, but this episode is going to be very practical for everybody, because these are like actionable things that everybody can try. Do you think that there are, like, is there something that you know that it has worked? And I'm going to try and think for, like, because I'm very aware, but is there something that you've done or that you recommend people doing for catching their thoughts?
well, I would imagine people will notice a pattern. So again, this is about bringing awareness to the negative thoughts. So if I say to you, Yali, you pay attention to your next negative thought, yeah, you're going to be able to catch that.
Do you think so? Because do you know what happens? Like in my own experience, I thought that that's like I had a negative thinking pattern before, you know, and now I'm very aware of it because I worked a lot on like meditation and a lot of personal work, you know, personal growth. And I thought that that was me. I identified that way of thinking with, that's my personality. Do you know what I
Mm,
mean? So when you're there, you don't, like, when people don't know that
okay.
that's so ingrained in you that you don't even know that there's other, that there's a greater, you know, mind.
Okay, so your thoughts are not you.
No, they're
Yeah.
not you. Yeah, but
Yeah.
like when you don't know that, how do you, like, I would like to remember
Well,
what was the process that I did to get rid of that, you know. I
and
think it's
we never
meditation
get rid of
again.
it. We never get rid of it.
We
Okay, because
control it.
yeah, like we all have a self-critic.
Oh yeah.
And I suppose I work from like a parent self, adult self, child self. Yes, so often our self-critic can be our parent self.
And a
So what
program, and in a program too.
in what do you mean in a program?
So we have a self-critic and we also come programmed. We have a program that we come with.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. But I suppose working from my perspective, definitely program. We're all programmed. But sometimes it's quite helpful for people to notice, are they in their child selves, their adult selves, or their parent self? Yeah. So often our child selves is the person like that feel like they don't have a choice. They're the victim, if you like. They don't really step into their power or their responsibilities.
Yeah, and a lot of people live like that until they die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But our adult selves are the people that we're talking about, that we're trying to empower, that we all have an adult self now. We're all adults. So we have
Well,
choices.
we're adults in age, but not all of us are adults in behavior.
Yeah, so what I mean by child, adult, and parent self is the different parts of us. Yeah.
Okay.
So we all have these parts of
Hmm.
us. These are the programs. Yeah.
Okay. So,
Our
okay.
child is a program, our adult is a program, and our parent self is a program. So they're all different parts of self.
Hmm.
Yeah. And so it's quite important to acknowledge which part we're working from in certain areas of our lives. So certain people can be in their child self in their relationships. So they let their partner dictate to them. They could be a partner, or their partner could be their parent. Yeah. So they dictate to them. And that's where the negative cycle continues. So nobody wants to be in a relationship like that. They want an adult and an adult in the relationship. Yeah.
Yeah.
So your question was,
How to catch, how to actually like become conscious, and start believing and understanding. It's not a matter of believing. Well, I think believing is super important. To believe it's even like more powerful sometimes than doing. But
what
that,
about acknowledging, is there a desire for something else? Yeah, that's the first point. Because some people like walking around with their negative thoughts and their idea of themselves as not so worthy.
do you think so? Do you
Yeah,
think that, yeah?
because it's easier. It's easy to take the victim chair.
Yeah, but that's a fear response, right? That's
Yeah.
I'm so afraid of change that I prefer to stay where I am forever because I can control, I can, like, supposedly in their limited belief
Yes.
system, I can control everything, you know? So maybe
Yeah.
from there, yes. So
And and when I say that, I have compassion for them, like you've just named it, the fear. Like they're not like their nervous systems aren't able to shift out of that freeze mode, you know. And I have compassion for them in that. That's not judgment when I say that, but more often than people don't want to do the work. They resist it. And that's okay if that's what they desire, if that's
oh no,
what they
you have
want.
to respect everyone's destiny,
Yeah, yeah,
even though it
yeah.
hurts. Sometimes it's somebody that's really close to you. And
So, like you said about something about like catching the thoughts, like, well, for
yeah,
me, what would it be like to cultivate different ways of speaking to yourself? So, like, if you're wanting to start a new venture and you're saying, oh, I can't do that, that's not me. Like, I don't have confidence or self-esteem. But what about changing it up with affirmations every night to say, I am capable, I am worthy, I can do this. I
yeah.
am who I am, and that's enough. Um,
Even though you don't
so like,
believe it, because like with the affirmation, that's what happens. You won't believe them the first day or the second or the third. But after, it's like a plant. After 3 months,
yes,
it'll start, yeah, I believe
yeah.
that one. Yeah.
And so if you do that, if you notice like saying what, like even noticing what it's like to say those affirmations, like I am enough, I
The
am
feeling.
capable. Yeah, the feeling of that, like it'll feel really uncomfortable for some. Yeah.
Yeah.
First. And then that's the pain point of like, oh, I've acknowledged how harsh I've been on myself. I acknowledge like
Say them
I
in
don't
front of the
ever say
mirror.
these
In
things.
front of the mirror, it's even better, you know,
Yeah.
because you can see you can see your reaction, like your face, or how do you, like, maybe don't look into your eyes, or
Mm.
that's a really
And
good one.
and that might be a bit much for somebody starting off to look at themselves in the mirror, so even if they get to say them, even if they take the time to say them, first of all, it might be really beneficial. And then they'll notice, well, I've never say these things to myself. So how can I cultivate more space for this? And that might go ding, ding, ding. I've been talking negatively about myself, or other people, being quite judgmental, or, like catching that, because that's not your call, that's not feeding your system with good energy. And you're wasting your energy really when you do
You said
that.
you said something like really powerful there, and it's about how people feel. But I've actually met people that cannot tell what they feel, you know?
Mm.
Like I've met people that I ask, so how do you feel about, what do you feel like? Some of the work that I've done, okay, that I've done on myself, it's systemic work. I don't know if you've heard about it, but it's called systemic constellations, and it's all about, it's really difficult to explain because it's not something very logic, it's very energetic. Okay, so you, for example, you do an exercise if you're working with, like, your brother, for example. You don't have to be with your brother, but there's something in the room that represents your brother, right? So when you look at that object that's representing your brother, the person that is moderating the thing asks you, what do you feel in your body? Like, tell me, what do you feel in your body? And I've done that dynamic with people that say, I don't feel anything, and I don't know if I'm even feeling, I don't know what I feel, So in that case, when, like, when
That's
people haven't,
safety. That's down to
yeah, but like,
safety.
how do you, like, and this is a little bit deep, okay? Maybe we're getting too deep, but how, like, I just would like to give people listening to this the ability of finding something that can tell them, okay, you do feel, because you're human. There has to
Mm.
be some, so, like, I
Yeah.
feel everything, like I overfeel. But
Mm.
some people they don't know, like,
So
and it,
it can be as simple as taking your hand and putting it on your chest, like skin on skin. Yeah. And sense the heat off your hand or the cold, but sense it. Yeah. So just stay there, hang out there, notice it. So notice it, bringing your attention to simply your hand on your chest and noticing the cold or the warmth of your hand.
in the dynamic, the cold or the warmth, it means something. Yeah, for example.
And it doesn't have to mean anything. It's
No,
about
no, no. I'm
feeling
telling
it.
you, like, like, I just wanted to add that, because even if that was something that the person felt, that could be something. But in this example that I'm telling you, it was like, I feel nothing, nothing, you know. So yeah,
And I suppose
hmm,
that person is struggling, they're in
disconnected.
freezing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but there
And
are
that's
a lot of people are. That's why I wanted to find something, like, something small that can, help you, or like, help people, like, connect to that emotional guidance system, because we all have it, you know
mm,
and if we follow that, and if we listen to that, like, it talks to us,
mm.
but
Yeah, and I suppose I can only go from my experience with the type of people that I work with that have been through severe trauma, that disassociation was needed. Yeah. So that was needed, and that may still be needed for a period of time until they wish for more. Yeah. So until they wish for more from themselves, like, so what they experience, because if we don't feel, we're not feeling the essence of joy and laughter and love to the point that we
oh
need
yeah,
to feel.
yeah, it's like,
And
it goes both ways.
both ways, yeah.
Hmm.
So that's okay for some people to survive right now.
To protect.
Yeah. And safety. I suppose when I hear you talk, the biggest thing for me that comes up is safety, that the person doesn't feel safe enough yet, you
Yeah.
know.
Hmm.
And that comes along with a mindset as well, but it's more so a bodily, like what you were talking about, that somatic part, that nervous system. And there's something blocked there and trapped. So for the people that haven't been through such severe trauma and they're noticing that they are slightly disconnected or they want to be more grounded, um, more often than not, it can be as simple as what I said about the hand on the chest and just noticing that for a second. You know, can you slow down enough to feel that and feel your heart beating? It could be as hugging your child, you know, or your dog or your partner or whoever, to feel that sensation. Notice it. Simply notice. No judgment, just notice. Um,
And
so
I
yeah,
think that's so important for business owners, for people that work for themselves, because when you work for yourself, in my own experience, like I'm talking me here, um, you're constantly, if you want to evolve, you know, like as a human, as a professional, as a servant of life, you have to constantly, keep
check in.
doing new things,
Yeah,
and that comes with fear, because we
yeah,
fear the unknown, because we are human.
yeah,
And to connect that feeling thing with, now being like a business owner working for yourself, you kind of know, well, I've learned, I hope that I am advancing this one, to feel, to really feel if the next thing is what where I should be going. Do you know?
yeah.
If that path is really my path, or is that coming from the ego and it's not really my path? Do you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So to
yeah.
find that, and it comes from, like, the answers are in my body, you know.
And asking yourself the why. Like, why am I going towards this? Like, and take out a piece of paper and brain dump onto it. Like, what is your why? Like, why are you going towards this? You know, and a big part, Yelly, is self-compassion. Like what we started this podcast about is like learning to cultivate self-compassion, like learning to take care of self, whatever that may look like for you. And for me, I know for sure it's reflexology and massage. Like them two things really help. Me, I can't talk about reflexology enough. I really, really value that for the system. So self-compassion, you know, read those books, like read those quotes. Like sometimes, isn't it, as often as reading that quote that goes, oh yeah, that resonates.
So before, like, really good what you said. Okay, I don't mean to change the topic, but before we finish, because we're nearly finished, I want you to. I have it in the top of. I had it in the top of my head, and now it's going. No, please come back. It was a really good question. What are those, like, I had an improvised question. I was like, I'm gonna fire it, and now it's gone. Let me see if it comes back. Please come back. Yes, it came back. So I have my guides. What are those things that you do, okay, as a woman, as a person, as a human, to self, I wouldn't say self-regulate, because it's not self-regulation, I don't think. But when your energy goes really, really low, which happens to every human being, I think, what are those things that you do in order to switch that energy and go back to, okay, um, I'm okay now. Do you know?
The
Like,
music,
I have my own thing, but I want you to share the things that you do.
music, Kelly. Like I love music. Like I love the big beats now. I don't like your classical, and I love that as well. But I love music. So putting on some music,
But you know
uh,
that music is vibration, right?
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and like shaking, like get up, like move your body. It depends. If I am feeling low in energy and it's time to come down, Like I just sit there, I allow it, you know, I accept my body for where it
No,
is at
but what I mean is low in energy is not like you feel tired or you want to go to bed. No, that's not what I mean. It's like low energy as in bad thoughts. You don't feel good, like inside, like you are in that like the low version of you, the low as in dark, you know,
Yeah.
or does that not happen to you? Because it happens to me.
I don't think I become no, I don't think the lowness comes over me that way. It would be more energy, like feeling tired, you know.
So physically, so you never feel low
Physically.
emotionally.
Yeah,
Wow.
so the emotionally like no, not so if I felt like what do you mean like sadness, is it?
Yeah,
Low?
like low. Yeah, like you know, you have a high vibration and you have a
Yeah.
low vibration. So the low vibration, you know, I mean, like high vibration is love, is abundance, is power. You know, like when you're in that sense of feeling, you know, like feeling like you who you really are inside you. You know, because we're all that, right?
And we have to pay attention to hormones and all of that piece. So I go to an understanding place more so than feeling like I have to do anything about it. Does that make sense?
So you don't really help yourself when you feel low.
So
No.
it doesn't last that long that I
No, no,
have
no,
to.
it doesn't last long, but you
Yeah.
don't do anything. You just let it be.
Yeah, I go to a more of an understanding place and I do ask myself like what do I need, you know? But more often than not, it's fine because I'm aware that it's like a wave, it will come up and it will go back down again, you know? It's just an emotion. Like emotion doesn't stay long. If you don't keep thinking the same thought. Um,
So then you do something, you change the thought, right?
yeah. So
Ah,
you're
there you
aware.
go. You do something.
Yeah, you change the thought.
Yeah.
Or you catch it. Like actually what's catching me here is the lowness versus anxious. So I would be more inclined to be anxious than low.
But that's a low vibration energy.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah,
so
yeah,
it's the same. Yeah, that's what I
yeah.
mean. You know, like those you see well, I don't know if you know, but like there's good, like not good, like good is not the word. There's a guy called David Hawkins that he has a map of emotions, and they're like every emotion has a vibration. So like up to 200 upwards, they're like good vibrations. 200 downwards, there's like despair, jealousy, you know, all those type of feelings, you know,
Right.
are the low. That's why I say low. Maybe I'm misusing the word, but that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Anxious, you know, that's not a good
So yeah,
feeling.
I'd catch the thought and
Okay.
I would change my thought to what you said earlier, gratitude. Like what am I grateful for here? You know, like I don't like to feel this way. So I'm gonna switch it up, like, you know, or I'm gonna move my body, you know, I'm gonna get out for a walk or surround myself by nature. Art, music, nature.
Art, music, nature. Okay, so those three things really bring you up again. Like
Yeah, peace.
regulate too could be a word.
Yeah.
In my case, I learned something really powerful, and it's about the thoughts. You know, again, it's um again Louise Hay. She says a lot. Like, why do you scare yourself with your thoughts? You know, and I've been listening to her for a long time, but there's like I constantly listen to her because every time I listen, I learn something new, you know, from the same thing.
Mm.
I don't know if that happens to you, that you listen to something so much that you catch different things different times.
Yeah.
So I was like, actually, it's my head, you know? So I can change what I'm thinking. I just need to find the way. Sometimes it takes like it's taking me less and less and less to be able to change the vibration,
Right.
but it happens to me, you know, and I suppose that that's what makes you human.
Yeah.
uh, but it's you know, catching it and saying, okay, so there's there's a there's a broken record, because sometimes it's a broken record. There's a broken record that I need to do something about, you know. And then exercise, I wouldn't say so much nature, because it's not that I do a lot of nature, to be honest. You know, like I'm more exercise, art, creativity.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, like if when I immerse myself in, you know, creating, and I create a lot, I'm just like in my zone. You know,
Yeah.
that's where I'm like, that's where time disappears.
Yeah. Yeah.
However, I need to bring myself to a level of being able to create, that
Yeah.
if I'm in the broken record, I can't, you know.
So like, yeah, it's very much um not black and white, but it's good and bad, you know,
And
like,
you have to be, I think, and another thing that I find, I'm very, very careful. Another thing that I do, I'm very careful to who I talk to when I feel like that. I don't talk to
yeah,
everybody those days, you know. So if I
yeah,
know that there is a situation that is going to put me in front of somebody that I know that can even, you know, make it even more, or, you know, like if I'm going to be bombarded by bad news, then that's not the day for that, you know.
no,
So I'm like, okay, I'm not, you know, I'm not in my full self here, so I can't really do that
yeah,
today. You know.
100%. And
Yeah.
it's about paying attention, though, that we are women as well, and there is hormones involved here, and your thoughts can obviously add to how you feel, but so can your bodies, you know. So, I don't really value. I like, obviously I value my thoughts, but I don't value them that much. You know, if there's a negative thought that comes in, I don't really believe it all the time, you know. I don't think a negative thought comes in. It's, as I said, it's a more of an anxious thought. Did I
Yeah,
do
but
that?
like, even though you don't believe things, they still affect you, you know, because if that wasn't the case, when you watch a movie, you wouldn't cry, you know.
Mm,
So even though you know that things are not true, they can make you sad. Do you know? Sometimes
yeah.
we think that, like, and that was something that a mentor told me. So you don't, you know, like, even like, you believe what you see, even though if you think you don't believe it. So otherwise you wouldn't be crying in movies, because it
Mm,
makes you feel, you know. So there's an effect
yeah.
on your feelings
But
sometimes.
I don't mind feeling. I don't mind feeling that sadness. You know, it's like, I don't mind feeling that. Like, obviously I don't want to stay in a state of anxious or a state of sadness, but I don't mind feeling it for the time being that I am feeling it. I don't try to move out of it. Um, it's not, that's not the thought process that crosses my mind, that, oh, I need to get out of this, you know. It's more so an understanding, as I said earlier, I go to it, well, what's adding to this in my day? And is it okay? And sometimes it's not okay. You know, sometimes it's projected onto you. And that's where you need to switch it up. But if it's your own stuff, and you can own it, well, so be it. It's gonna shift, you know.
If you
Or
know how to.
if you're trusting yourself enough. So again, we're back to self, you know, trusting self enough. And some people need a lot of tools, and some people have that inner way of being with themselves, that relationship with themselves, that they get themselves. Yeah. Am
Hmm.
I?
No, 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 no. Yeah, I'm just thinking about, like, I'm processing all the, like, it's gone very deep.
Well, that's what you opened up, Yelly, when you started with me. I'm a deep person.
So no, I'm deep too, you know. I'm just processing everything as you say it, you know. Because, you
And
know, because I'm very sensitive.
it's
So it's,
good.
you know, it's a whole, you know,
And I'm
experience.
extremely sensitive as well. I'm
Yeah.
extremely sensitive. And like, we can be told like we are super sensitive, you know, as kids and stuff, and that can be too much. So it's about really owning that, because it can be really valuable, because we can really feel, you know. And when we can really feel sad and anxious, we can really feel the love and the joy and the creativity.
I wouldn't that's something that I will not change. I
Yeah.
know that, you know. I think it's a gift.
Yeah.
I
And
think
that
it's a gift.
creative piece that you're talking about, like, that's invaluable. Like,
I think that's another gift. And I think that's a gift that, by the way, everyone has. And for some reason, that, well, like, not everybody's going to have the same level of technical knowledge after somebody that has studied something creative and somebody that hasn't. Okay,
Mm.
like the technical part is not going to be there for somebody that hasn't. But there's enormous amount of creativity inside every single being in this universe. And like, everything is creative.
Yeah.
So when I hear when I hear people say, I know, I'm not creative at all, I'm like, you just haven't tried it.
And you've created your life.
You created your life, yes. And you create everything. Like people have to believe more. So anyway, to close, let me see if there's any questions that I haven't asked you. So let's leave them with 3 things that they could do, or they can do in their everyday lives, to live a more positive life and to be able to serve better. Okay, because when I don't think you can help other people with something that you have not experienced yourself. That's my own way of thinking.
Mm.
It's like if I tell you go on a diet based on eggplant and I haven't done it, you know?
Yeah, and I suppose, yeah, I hear you.
Yeah,
Um,
that's like, I believe there has to be coherence. Okay.
mm,
That's my own belief. I might, it might not connect with everyone, but we're going to talk about experience here. Okay. What has worked, not what we have seen, read, heard. Okay. What
mm.
has worked to create a more positive life and then being able to serve people better. So give me your 3.
That helps me live a more positive life.
Yeah. And
Um,
let's see if you find 3 things that you haven't said yet.
yeah. I suppose experiencing, like, travel, which is something I've been missing the last while. Experiencing, seeing different places. It could be somewhere 20 minutes down the road, but you've never been there before. So it's allowing yourself to experience that and take it in, use your senses, your eyes, your ears, your smell. You might get a coffee there. So slowing down and taking in that experience, that moment,
Seeing something new.
seeing something new. What helps me experience a more positive life is art, like allowing myself to. What I'm starting lately, which is something that I would never have done before, was painting. I would have always been a pencil person, and now I'm like looking at tutorials about painting, and I'm like, this is not so hard. And so, like, just letting myself uh kick into my inner child, just let myself do whatever on a canvas, um freedom, like, just let yourself go. And a more positive life, I think we do need connection. I'm a more, like, as I said earlier, an individual person. I would well live in my box. But I do really value connection and connecting with the right people, with the right people. I emphasize that. That lift you up and that you can learn from, and that you can, like,
That
they
you can
say,
be
bring,
yourself.
yeah, and you can be as wacky as you want, because I would consider myself quite wacky.
What is
Spiritual,
wacky? I don't know what wacky is. What's that?
like spiritual. I really do
Okay.
believe. I'm very, very spiritual, especially lately. A lot of things are just coming to me, but not spirits now, but things like intuitions. So
I
yeah,
don't mind. Whatever.
yeah.
I'm not. You
Oh,
can say,
and flowers. I love flowers.
me too. So
Yeah.
my three things would be watching your words. Okay. So if you start, just listen to even instead of saying not too bad, I'm great, why bad? Where the bad comes
Yeah.
from.
Yeah.
And that's also used in Spanish, because English is not my native language, but
Yeah.
some people say in Spanish something like, oh, not too bad. And I'm like, but why, where's the bad there?
Yeah.
You had it, we're talking on the internet. So that means that we both have internet. You have electricity, you have food on the table, you can travel, or like stop using the word bad,
Mm.
So using paying a lot of attention to your words, because the words, I think, are very powerful. Then doing your emotional, energetic diet with people that you need to go on a diet from, unfortunately. Unfortunately or fortunately,
Yeah.
some people, I don't I don't like talking about people. I just know the way I feel around some people. So it's not about the people, it's about me.
Yes.
It's like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like the way that, like the whatever they trigger on me, or
Yeah.
whatever happens, right? And then, the last thing, just start to listen to stop and to try and listen to what you say to yourself.
So slowing
And
down.
I have a new one that you said too: try new things. The amount of, like, to look back. Wait a second, you need to try new things, but you need to celebrate yourself. Because if you do, and then you never actually look back and say, look at where I am today compared to 3 years ago,
Yeah.
and that comes from like personal experience. Like now I'm like, every single milestone is like, wow, I'm my first fan.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that's so important.
That's so important. And
That's so,
I'm poor in that area. Yeah.
yeah. So I learned that in the last few years, and I think it's,
Yes.
and I try to share it as with as many people as I know. Like, you're not there, but just look back and see how far have you come from, like, all the things you've done.
Or even just the small wins, just the small
Yeah, but
win.
like they don't have to be like trophies, or no, none of that. Like, even if you, I don't know, you did a week of exercise. Well, I wouldn't tell you ever celebrate a week, celebrate the month. Better. A month of exercise, that's great. You lost weight, that's great. You I don't know, you did a podcast, that's great. Like, you wouldn't have done that. So it's that realness. Thank you so much for that. I think that it's going to be, I hope that it's going to be valuable for people that watch this, and I appreciate your honesty in this.
Thank you so much for taking the time. And yeah.
I'll see you again in part 2 of this deep conversation.
Take care, Yeli.